Hello friends and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner. I hope you are all doing well. Today I've got a little bit of a speculation theory about whether the next update and whether in fact the DLC could be delayed. Now this is not just based on wild speculation, there is some sort of fact that I'm basing this on, but if you've been paying attention, if you've been looking closely at some of the stuff that Gameloft have been doing since the update, then you might have noticed that a few of the dates around the Star Path and the Star Path end have changed a couple of times. Alongside the dates not lining up, there's been patch notes delays, the blog post has been changed, and it's all been just a little bit suspicious. I've been looking into it and I think that there might be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, which might actually be having a knock-on effect onto the update with Sally, or like I said, even the DLC. But don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm going to bring you along for the ride regarding my theory. So let's take a look at what I've noticed and whether there might actually be an impact over the next couple of weeks. Alright, so when the update dropped last week, we obviously got a new Star Path, and if you remember from the Valley vignette earlier in the year, they actually did mention that this update was supposed to be smaller and shorter in scope. I have touched on this a few times in a number of videos, and it was expected to just be a bug fixes and quality of life update, but they did seem to add a few new features, which was quite exciting. However, obviously, we didn't get a specific house for Timon and Pumbaa, the Star Path was slightly shorter. There was a couple of elements that led us to believe that this was in fact, as they said, a smaller update and a shorter update, the key as a result. But it was when the update dropped and when the dates started coming in for the end of the Star Path, when players started checking how long they had to complete or how much of an indication the length of the Star Path might give us for the next update, that is when a few things started getting spotted. Firstly, my in-game mailbox said that the Star Path would last 42 days. Now, that is a typical Star Path length. We usually either get something like 42 days, 49 days, or very occasionally it might be slightly longer. However, given that it was meant to actually be a shorter Star Path, we obviously didn't get the 6th page of rewards like we usually do. Plus, the fact that the Star Path was cheaper, that was an acknowledgement from Gameloft saying, yes, this is in fact a smaller, shorter Star Path, so we've reduced the price for that reason, and it's going to end a little bit sooner. So that made sense, especially with the in-game mail. But a couple of players then noticed the Star Path screen itself said that the Star Path was ending in 49 days. Again, 49 days is a typical length of a Star Path, but not shorter in terms of what we were expecting with the update. So there was already a discrepancy there inside the game. But then to make things even more confusing, the official blog post that came out on release day that includes the trailer and all of the other details on the update, specifically for like press and stuff like that, then said that the end date was going to be on the 13th of November. So even back on update day last week, I remember seeing players like, so which one is it? We've got 3 dates. But that wasn't the only thing that felt a little bit strange or a little bit off, at least to me. Usually Gameloft are really good about getting the patch notes out on the Monday before an update drops. Honestly, they're pretty much like clockwork and on schedule every single time that they've had the patch notes out. Every single Monday since I've been playing, and I believe there was only one update where they came out on a Tuesday, and that was the Bell update. But other than that, always on a Monday, 100%. But this time, when the patch notes sort of like missed their window, I was tracking on a spreadsheet. Yes, I know that's very sad, but I was tracking on a spreadsheet when the patch notes usually come out and what time. So they usually come out at about 2 p.m. UK time, which is my time. Once that 2 p.m. had passed, I was like, okay, maybe it'll be 5 p.m., which is usually the next window that they post. And then that passed as well. So at that point, I kind of guessed that they weren't coming out on Monday. Tuesday rolls around and the same thing happened again. 2 p.m. passed, 5 p.m. passed, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is weird. Something is definitely going on. I thought maybe something's happened. Maybe they just didn't want to show off that there wasn't a great deal of new content in this update. This was obviously before we had the update, but there was actually a bunch of really cool stuff in the patch notes. There was the flying references, there was the new photo poses. So it was strange to me that the patch notes would be delayed if in fact there were new features coming. They obviously did eventually come on the Tuesday night or super late on the Tuesday, depending on where you are, at least for me. I think they came at around like 9:15 or something along that line. It was a very odd time. So to me at least, it felt like a bit of a scramble on Gameloft's side. Very disorganized, not their usual sort of like standard times that they post. Also, it was update week, and having 48 hours or just over 48 hours of dead silence on their socials during an update week was kind of strange. Now, I know in context it's not a huge deal, and yes, I agree that it's not a massive deal, but you know, this is a little bit of speculation, and it's interesting to see, or at least speculate on what goes on behind the scenes. So I did twig that something might be happening and something was going on behind the scenes that wasn't quite right. They obviously delayed the patch notes. As a result, I thought that the update might have ended up getting delayed because obviously they posted the developer update and then they just posted a couple of teasers from that over the weekend. But Sunday through Tuesday, it was just silent. I mean, that's an update week. That's the biggest time to get hype. That's the biggest time to encourage players to come back to the game. So I did think that was a little bit weird. On top of that, and sort of like the final puzzle piece to this, is when the update first went live, the blog post got posted as usual, and the blog post specifically said that the star path would have a shorter runtime and fewer rewards. It did also mention, as I said at the start, that November 13th would be the end date. That would have been 35 days, which was honestly what I was expecting, because then I was expecting a week of redemption to take us to the 20th, and my initial theory, and I know the theory of a number of players now, was that either the DLC or the Sally update was going to come out on the 20th of November. It was pointing that way. We are getting the showcase stream within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I can tell you that for certain. So it made sense that the 20th of November would be sort of like the follow-on date after that, to get the sales for Black Friday and all of those big retail time of year sales, especially in the shopping sphere and the gaming sphere. Gameloft obviously care about their revenue, so getting the DLC out prior to Black Friday probably was the initial idea and would have been a really good option and might have been what they were going for, but I do think that something has happened to push that date back. To support that theory, the blog post was actually quietly updated without anyone knowing just a couple of days after the update went live. There was no announcement, Gameloft obviously didn't say that it was updated, but the end of the star path was quietly changed to November 27th, and specifically the part about the shorter runtime was completely removed. Now, I don't know about you, but that is an extra 2 weeks on top of the star path, and considering that they had a blog post prepped that said it was going to finish on the 13th of November, to change that and add 2 weeks, I definitely feel like something's gone on there. In my opinion, whatever has happened at Gameloft, either over the weekend prior to the update or even on the Monday that the patch notes were meant to drop, I feel like a decision was taken to extend the length of the star path and therefore the length of the update by at least 2 weeks, if not 3. I feel like that possibly gives the developers more time to either work on the Sally update or the DLC drop. Now, there's still no word on whether those are going to come together or separately. Last year, I know that the updates came together, the DLC came at the same time, and it was quite overwhelming because there was so much content in one go. Whether that happens again this year, I do not know. We'll just have to wait for the showcase stream to let us know that. But on the whole, I think that they needed more time. So the question is, I just wonder what they needed more time for. Was it the DLC? Was it the Sally update? Was it both? As a result, I think that decision, and whatever decision that was made on the Monday. Henceforth, the patch notes were delayed and that they didn't come out until Tuesday. That makes sense and that tracks as to why they were delayed, because there might have been a lot of internal back and forth going on. Maybe they didn't want to put out any comms or communications to confuse people or get the dates wrong. Ironically, that has happened, and it does seem like they forgot to update the blog post. So I do think that the blog post was correct prior to that update being delayed. Also, I do think that a 35-day star path, given the context of a reduced reward and a reduced cost, was the initial concept. That also explains why things were a little bit quiet on social media as well. So yeah, that Monday and Tuesday, something happened in Gameloft for them to say, no, we need more time. This update needs to be pushed back. And whether it was a decision to keep the Jungle Getaway update coming out at the right time, or maybe pushing that back a week, it seems like they've gone with releasing that one on time, obviously, but as a result, I do feel like it's possibly pushed either the DLC or the Sally update back. It's not uncommon for developers to extend events or content when they're not quite ready for the next big release. Of course, this is a live service game and they are constantly working on things, and when they're adding new content and updating content and trying to do hotfixes and all of that sort of stuff, things do happen. I've worked with developers my entire working life, and sometimes stuff just goes wrong. It's just the way that it is. It's the way that it is. So particularly with the blog post quietly changing and the possibility of delayed patch notes, it wouldn't surprise me if they're just trying to buy a little more time for the devs. There's obviously a whole host of people involved in this. There's project managers, there's higher ups, there's execs, there's a full suite of people that are working on Disney Dreamlight Valley, of course. So it might not just be the devs. Perhaps there's a marketing issue, perhaps there's a licensing issue, perhaps there's something else, but it would be my guess that the game is not quite running exactly how they would like. Maybe some of the updates are not going exactly how they would like. There was a playtest recently for the DLC. Now, NDAs were signed for that, so we've had no leaks or anything like that from the playtest. The only thing we've gotten from the game itself is those couple of files that were leaked, and I won't link them because they are spoilers. This is a spoiler-free video, but yeah, the couple of files that were leaked and found a couple of weeks ago by the Dreamlight Leaks Discord, they were the only things. Other than that, we don't really know much else about the DLC. So to sum it all up, we have a star path that was supposed to be shorter, and has somehow gotten longer. A blog post was quietly edited, and there was some silence on socials from the game and some delayed patch notes. So all of those things, at least to me, are pointing that there might be something going on behind the scenes with Gameloft, and that we could possibly see a delay in future content. What do we all think? Are we looking at a possible delay, or is this just a small adjustment? Maybe I'm way off the mark. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future updates or future speculation from me, correct or incorrect. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.